This is the Scrum Feed. Paul Delgan and I will be looking at double trouble in Bronco land, Eels forward Isaiah Iongi served with a breach notice by the NRL, the weekly pressure valve, which coaches will be under the pump this week, and the Giraffe Guarantee, currently 4 out of 4 and running at 100%. We'll also review last round's games and preview round 4. Paul, the Broncos, they've won, but they're not happy in the camp. The defensive coach, David Teo, resigned after what was said to be a heated argument with coach Michael Maguire. What do you make of it all?
Yeah, well, the interesting part as well is that Teo and Maguire have played together. He played under Maguire at the Rabbitohs winning a premiership. Many said he was one of the biggest reasons why the Rabbitohs won that premiership. So there's a history there. He did say in his younger days, Maguire was a bit feisty. That might have been at the time of the Tiger Town documentary we recall fondly, Professor, where there were more F-bombs than a Rodney Rood concert. But apparently Maguire's calmed down somewhat, but judging by what we're seeing this year, perhaps not.
Teo is only in his second season as defensive coach, and he also played under Maguire at the Rabbitohs, so he surely knew what he was getting into.
Yeah, well, I think with some people, we might have encountered them. It's difficult with a work persona. They get into certain moods, and it's hard to reason with them. It may have been a bad day for Teo, but situations can become untenable sometimes, and that may have been what happened here. It doesn't assist that the Broncos' defence, of which Teo was in charge of, hasn't exactly been gold standard this year. So the fact they're coming from behind late in matches, obviously that's an attacking strength, but it may have been that Teo and Maguire didn't see eye to eye on what's needed to fix the defence, putting to one side the win against the Storm, which we'll get to.
Well, that's a good segue into your mate Gordon Tallis, Paul. He and the Broncos have had a bit of a tete-a-tete. His name's been removed from the wall at Brisbane HQ after he said some things about the Broncos and Adam Reynolds.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a Storm, all puns excused, given they just beat them in a teacup for mine. It was 3 hours into a podcast. Heaven forbid we go for 3 hours, Professor, but we keep it a bit shorter than that. But 3 hours in, he simply made a comment that it's not a great look if you're recovering from rib injury to be on a plane and in a studio. It wasn't personal, Adam Reynolds. It probably would have been said about any club. But the fact that Tallis is great mates with Kevin Walters, always it's perceived that he's got a knife to wield against the Broncos. So Gordy, unfortunately, is cursed with whatever he says about the Broncos. But one thing we can say, we've had him on the show a few times, he tells it how it is. And that's what he did in this instance. And most people agree with him. It wasn't a good look. And Reynolds has come out and said everyone needs to move on. I think it was an overreaction by the Broncos. They're being a bit precious.
Eels forward Isaiah Iongi. We spoke about him several weeks ago, Paul, where he had some social media photos released, accordingly, allegedly without his permission. But the NRL's issued a breach notice for bringing the game into disrepute.
Yes, well, it is a shame, and it's a side note to what is an amazing season so far. It's proving to be a great season. It started off well in Vegas, and it's one of the first, I guess, off-field incidents that we have to talk about on here, but the NRL has to set a standard for such conduct as we've seen in the past.
He should be available to play against the Panthers this week, Paul, because he's got 5 days to respond to the NRL's notice.
Well, it's a bit shorter than Kyle Sanders was given, but yes, I'm sure he can make amends and we'll see him back on the field and we can focus on the footy.
Let's assess the pressure valve, Paul. Michael Maguire, he won. So the pressure's gone down on him, I would expect.
Oh, just a touch, but there's a lot of dramas in that Broncos team. I'm not saying he's not safe there. He just won a premiership. But there's a few things happening at that club you've got to keep an eye on. But the coaches we need to talk about under the most pressure are definitely the Cowboys. But, I mean, that might be a touch less with the win against the Titans. But the main one with the main pressure, I have to think, is at Seibold at Manly, as we predicted pre-season.
I think he's got more chance of getting the sack this week than last week, Paul, even though he was on a bye.
Well, this match will be very interesting against the Roosters because it's obviously Cherry Evans, and it would be hard for Schooner to watch seeing Cherry Evans in a Roosters jersey. It looks strange to me, and I'm not a Manly fanatic. So I think if the Roosters step up and smash Manly in a match that'll be tension on both sides, then I think the pressure will head to Spinal Tap levels of 11 out of 10.
I'm going to add another coach to the pressure valve watch, Paul. Shane Flanagan at the Dragons. 0-3. They're sitting almost at the bottom of the ladder. I think 16th as we speak. So your prediction was they'd finish 17th. Will he survive the season?
Well, whether he's a master manipulator of the media like Wayne Bennett, Flanagan did say that there's no great expectations, which was a strange statement for a coach. Whether he meant that, but it's clearly prophetic because I don't have great expectations, and not many do for the Dragons the way they're performing. He keeps playing his son at number 7. This isn't personal, but his son isn't first grade worthy to play halfback, and we know how important that position is for this game.
Great expectations. Be a good name for a book, Paul.
Yeah, that's right. So it's tough on him because it's not fair on his son with that pressure of having to be the coach's son, but also too is on Flanagan as well. It's the nepotism stick he's getting hit with, given the way they're playing. They haven't been that bad, actually. They could easily be 2-1, the Dragons, but a couple of more losses, and they're going to be in a little bit of trouble. They've got the Titans this week. If they get off the board, the Titans with a win, Flanagan's pressure valve again will be up towards the 10 out of 10 mark.
The Giraffe Guarantee, Paul, currently 4 from 4 at 100%. Can we call it the can't miss guarantee?
I know, never do that because the punting gods or the prediction gods will strike you down very rapidly. So, no, we can't do that. Just happy to get the occasional one right.
Well, hopefully we've got one for this week.
We do, yes.
Let's look at last week's games, Paul, that kicked off the Raiders playing the Bulldogs in Canberra. Terrible conditions to play in. The Bulldogs just getting home. 2 Stephen Crichton penalty goals being the difference in the end.
Yes, and it was just the class of the Dogs to not play that well and to get the win. I think they're building at the Dogs, and I'm not backing down from my prediction they'll make the grand final.
Roosters scored in the first 4 minutes, Paul. Looked like it was going to be a very interesting game, and then the Panthers had their way. 40-4, that's an absolute thrashing. The Roosters have now been pummeled twice. They've got a points differential of minus 52, if you don't mind. If you're going to be a good team, you don't usually have a points differential like that. They're also sitting 15th on the ladder.
Well, they are, and there's talk that the coach that we thought was untouchable might be heading to France at the end of the year, but apparently it's all rumours. I think Robinson's safe as long as he wants to stay in red, white and blue, but the Panthers are scarily good at the moment. Some are saying better than when they put on that run of premierships. So they're clearly the favourites to win the premiership, but a couple of injuries, who knows what could happen.
Well, and they've got different people bobbing up each week, Paul. I would have put money that winger Thomas Jenkins wouldn't have scored 4 tries in the game, but he did.
No, he sounds like a bank robber more than from the colonial era. But, yeah, he's one of the form players in the comp based on the stats. So they are getting outcomes from those you wouldn't expect.
The Storm, I thought they were over the line at half-time, Paul, 14-zip, and then the Broncos, a magnificent comeback to steal the game by 4 points.
I think I've seen 100 at least Storm matches. This one not live. I'd say that'd be 1 out of 100 they'd lose a lead of 14. You can only imagine what Bellamy was like post-match because they never lose games from there. Does show you, though, the attacking power of the Broncos, which hasn't been affected by all the recent dramas.
I saw Bellamy's after-match conference, Paul. He said it was a game of 2 halves. He said they defended very well in the first half, couldn't tackle anybody in the second half.
No, well, that's it, and it's very un-Storm-like. I think we've been saying that for a couple of years now, and that's why I haven't rushed to tip the Storm to win. I just think when the pressure games are on, that they just aren't quite the team they were a few years back, despite having probably the best spine in the comp on their day.
You're talking about building, Paul. I think the Warriors are building. It's a big win, 38-12 over the Knights. They're doing very, very well. No Ponga, no Brown, no Knights.
No, and forgive me just for the viewers. I'm at the airport, by the way, and I'm not flying across the Dutch, heading back to Melbourne, but I did tip the Warriors to make the 8. Not many did so, and I'm happy I did that because they're playing very well. And all of this without their regular halfback playing. He'll be back soon.
The Warriors have the number 1 offence, Paul. They've scored 120, average of 40 points per game.
And that's just players with a hyphenated name as well, Professor. That's the most astounding part of it all. When they get Metcalf back, he'll slot in with Tanner Boyd. And the way that Tanner Boyd's playing with Metcalf's potential, they could even finish top 4. Imagine how big that would be for the game in New Zealand.
Be huge, Paul. The Dolphins, back to form, Paul. I picked this one, 38 to the Sharks, 10. You could get a head start on the odds from the bookies, Paul.
We did predict it on the show, and I think it was $3.50, I think, the Dolphins. A bit of value there for the people following along at home. I have tipped the Dolphins to win it all, which raised a few eyebrows from people I've told, but I'm standing by it. I think the Dolphins are a great team. There's something wrong at the Sharks, though. They don't normally lose like that at home. I didn't think it'd be that comprehensive.
Well, and also the Dolphins scored the last 3 tries of the game just to put a full stop on it.
Yeah, and perhaps that 8-pack we were talking about, Nico Hines packing on all that muscle. Perhaps he's not built to be having that much muscle on him. He's supposed to be a bit more lithe perhaps and agile.
Your Rabbitohs, Paul, got home against the West Tigers. The West Tigers had a couple of injuries which didn't help. Jerome Luai and Adam Dewey. Luai could be out for at least 4 weeks with a knee.
It is a shame. There's two teams with playmakers out who've been playing very well, the Knights and the Tigers this season. I hate to say it now, but if you get your red pen out in, what is it, round 3, Professor, I hate to do it, but both those teams, I think, will struggle to make anywhere near the 8. Given they've lost their playmakers, it's really sad.
What about your Rabbitohs, Paul?
They were good, but Wayne Bennett quite rightly wasn't happy, the same way he wasn't happy the week before when everyone rushed the field, including the Prime Minister. Wayne Bennett's a good barometer for how the team's going. I could normally read him pretty well. Some say he's inscrutable, but not to me. He wasn't happy, and I'm happy with the win, but we didn't play well.
Talon Da Silva made the most of his 20 minutes on the field. Paul, he scored 2 tries, which is not bad for a reserve. The Eels triumphing over the Dragons 30-20. The Dragons 0-3, and your prediction of them coming last is looking pretty good, as I said earlier.
Yeah, they're rising, the Eels, and they're just a bit classy for the Dragons. They're just missing an X factor, the Dragons. I hear rumours Pappenhausen might be tempted, but it'd have to be a lot of money to get him out of retirement. He's looking pretty happy last I saw. Happily retired.
And what I thought were the 2 worst teams in the comp, Paul, Cowboys 30 defeated the Titans 16. The Titans played like a poor team. They're 0-3, and I think they could be vying with the Dragons as to who is actually the worst team in the comp this year.
Yeah, and I think, for those who want to watch it, I think the Titans and Dragons will probably be a battle for who's the worst team this year. And I would say a pointer towards the spoon, but given what's happened to the Knights and Tigers, they're going to plummet as well. So for those interested, Titans and Dragons will be a slugfest.
Let's preview round 4, Paul. It starts Thursday night. The Sea Eagles, Schooners Sea Eagles, 11th on the ladder, taking on the Roosters, who've been hammered in 2 out of their 3 games. They're 15th. Bit hard to work out who might come away with the win here.
Well, the only thing that would have me leaning towards Manly, but it isn't enough, is the Cherry Evans return. Apparently, all the Manly fans are going to boo Cherry Evans. I won't say too much about that. He's the most influential player at that club for the last 20 years. Do what you like, Manly fans, but I think Roosters will just have too much desperation and class and get the win against Manly.
Fortress Brookvale won't have any involvement in Manly trying to get home?
It'll be close, but I just think the Roosters will have a touch too much class. There's something missing at Manly. Jake Trbojevic, sadly for him, he's not playing well. I just can't see them doing it with those halves. Cherry Evans and Walker are going to have to click sooner or later. I think it'll be this week.
The 6 p.m. game on Friday night, Paul, we're crossing the Dutch. The Warriors, who are leading the comp at the moment, even with all their players, the West Tigers had struggled given the form that the Warriors are in at the moment.
Well, they win, and I'm going to do a double leg guarantee, if you don't mind, Professor, because I like to offer a bit of value for those playing along at home. This will be the first leg. I think it's the first time we've done a double legged guarantee. It's a 2-legged giraffe, if you don't mind, but the Warriors are the first leg. They will win this game quite well.
And the 8 p.m. game on Friday night, Paul, the Broncos, who got out of jail against the Storm, against the resurgent Dolphins.
I like the Dolphins at odds. I've tipped them to win it all. I just think the Broncos might be a bit flat after playing the Storm, as most teams are. I think the Dolphins in a high-scoring encounter.
The Broncos are making the headlines for all the wrong reasons too, Paul, because we've got the resignation of their defensive coach, plus all the rigmarole that's going on with Gordon Tallis. So that must be affecting the players in some way.
Well, it is, and the Dolphins are quietly building what is a very good team, coming off a very good win at a tough opponent, the Sharks. So I favour the Dolphins as outsiders.
The Kalen Ponga and Dylan Brownless Knights taking on the Bulldogs in the first game on Super Saturday.
Yes, and that's the second leg of the guarantee. I've got the Dogs accounting for the Knights. They won't recover from those player losses, unfortunately. The Dogs will win well.
8 p.m. game Saturday, Paul. Panthers, who can't do anything wrong at the moment and look very, very powerful against the Eels. This should be a really interesting game. I would have thought almost the match of the round.
It'll be a great game, and we'll see how good the Eels are. But the Panthers in current form, you couldn't tip against them, and I certainly won't be. But it will be a great game to watch, and let's see what the Eels have got. They could spring an upset. Be great to see for the game if they do. The Panthers train just keeps rolling on, though.
The nightcap on Saturday night, Paul. The Storm should get back to winning ways against the Cowboys.
They should, but the Cowboys showed some form against the Titans. They'll be in this game, the Cowboys, but the Storm should just have enough to cover it up there in the tropics.
First game on Sunday, Paul. The Raiders, who've been disappointing, well, not disappointing, I'd say very disappointing, against the Sharks, who've probably been just as disappointing.
Yeah, it's a tough game. Both of these two are to pick because the 4 teams are terribly out of form. I've got the Raiders, though. I still think they could do something this year. Sharks too disappointing. I can't see them turning it around and winning it at the Raiders.
And if you were going to do something at 6:15 on Sunday night, you could probably be able to do it, because I don't know that the TVs will be counting too many people watching the Titans, who are 17th, playing the Dragons, who are 16th.
No, I think it'd be up there with about the ratings for Hey Hey It's Saturday when they've replayed it for the 87th time. But I think the Titans should just beat the Dragons, who are pretty terrible. Their first win of the year.
That's all from the Scrum Feed for this week. We'll talk rugby league again with you next week.